There's a really good, if you are crazy about the show, there's a really good podcast called The Office Ladies, where Pam and Angela talk about every single episode. They go through all the episodes. I think they're on season 2 right now.
Gossip ladies.
The Office Ladies.
Office ladies. Okay.
Yeah, and it's fun because it's they give you insight into it. Angela's a little bit annoying in the show, but Jenna Fischer, who plays Pam, she's really good, and she has a lot of really cool insight.
Now, I've seen Jenna Fischer in other things.
She was in Blades of Glory.
I'm trying to let me look her up and see what I've seen her in, but I've seen her in I've never, I almost made you and I the Blades of Glory poster. I really did, but
she was in that with Will Ferrell and
John Heder, right?
John Heder, yeah.
Now, didn't you say, this is a throwback to the old show for a moment, you were in your class at UK, and John Heder and the guy that
not Zac Efron, Efron, whatever his name is, the guy that played Pedro. Yeah, they came to do a little Q&A at UK, and we went there, and I was going to ask a question, but I didn't, and I everybody would get up and ask questions of like, oh, do you really like tater tots? Like stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get up there and ask both of them, what did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a kid?
Right.
When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
What made you not ask that?
I just, it was a big room of people, and I just don't like to get up at those things.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
But I really, really, really wanted to ask that question. It was the coolest thing. It was one of the coolest things I went to when I was at UK.
Did you know they were coming there? Okay. So
I had to get a ticket to it.
Okay.
Ashley Judd was the one that showed up at my class.
Oh, yeah.
Unannounced. Yeah, that was Ashley Judd, which you've met too, right?
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so if you had a chance to ask a character a question, what question would you ask him?
I mean, maybe this question would be answered later on, maybe not. I can't say at this moment, but I want to know how. I don't know what I would ask, but I would want to get inside Michael Scott's. Spend a whole day with him all day long, not just at the paper distribution plant, because I want to see what makes him tick when he's driving into work. What's he doing? What's he listening to? Other than burning himself with the George Foreman grill, what's his routine in the morning? What makes him? Because he has to have more dreams than just being the regional manager.
You've got to continue to watch the show.
So I'm guessing these questions are answered.
All of your questions will be answered with the show.
So, yeah. And why is he so loyal to the company? He seems to be very loyal to that company.
That one really, I don't know if that one gets answered.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a really good question.
So.
Mine was going to be for Jan as to why have you never fired this guy? Or why have you not demoted him back to sales and hired somebody else to be a manager, because all he is an embarrassing thorn in your side.
An embarrassing and inappropriate thorn.
That's so interesting enough. The sexual harassment one, they almost didn't air it. And in many different places, like I was living in Kentucky, and it actually was blocked in Kentucky. They showed an old episode instead of that one because of the content of it. Nowadays, It wouldn't be that big of a deal. I mean, it's 15 years later. Nobody would have cared. But then it got blocked in Kentucky. You could not watch it until the reruns, just because it was so inappropriate.
And I like you said, I didn't really find it all that inappropriate.
What's the word that made it, that triggered everybody? that triggered the executives at NBC.
Was it the B word?
Boner.
Okay.
That was the reason why Kentucky didn't show it, and it had a disclaimer on it.
See, now that you mentioned that, when I first heard that, it didn't bother me, but I was like, I didn't think it didn't seem like something that would be said in this type of show. Even though they were talking about inappropriate, I just thought it stood out to me.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me or anything like that, but it did stand out because it's, for one, I guess it could be offensive to some people, but for two, that's not really a word. I don't really hear that word at all, like in life or anything anymore, really.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody Moolah tells a joke, I'm going to hear that word. But unless I'm around people that speak like that, I don't really. So it caught me off guard, but in a funny way.
It's not one of those words. It's such a weird word because it's not a cuss word.
Right.
But at the same time, it's in that weird gray area of it's not a cuss word, but at the same time, it's not an appropriate word.
Not an everyday word.
It's just this weird word. So that's why when it came up, and no pun intended, when it arose with the show, I see how that would be such a controversial word because it's just so weird. It's such a not normal word.
Well, it would just be like, would we say that word doing the radio show? Would you say that live on air? I don't think I would.
Honestly, I just said it a few minutes ago just to say, because I had to tell you which word it was.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of hesitation into saying it, and unless I was rephrasing this film or the show again,
right,
I wouldn't say it because it's just a. But I think it was a perfect word for the situation. I think it was like one of the few times where you're like, oh, well, that's probably the best word to use.
Yeah. And if you notice, a lot of times too, I'm not saying with this show, but a lot of times, they probably would have got some complaints, but they probably drew more attention to it by not showing it than just letting it go. Just like the Janet Jackson thing. If they would have complained about it so much, there would have been a few complaints, but it probably would have went a little slower. And good thing the internet wasn't like it is today, back then.
Oh my gosh.
Or Twitter.
And that was around, when was that?
2004, I think.
So I think one of the podcasts I was listening to, I think because of the Janet Jackson thing, this was still kind of fresh on people's minds, and that's why that's why they made a big deal out of it.
That's true too, because that was in 2004, and that was season 2, so that was what, 2006?
Late 2005.
2000. So that's only
And that went on forever. The Janet Jackson wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah.
Forever.